retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel whose assignments included duties as a Pentagon desk officer and a variety of roles for the National Security Agency. Since retiring, she has become a noted critic of the U.S. government's involvement in Iraq. Kwiatkowski is primarily known for her insider essays, which denounce a corrupting political influence on the course of military intelligence leading up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Karen, are you here? Can you hear us? Oh, we got a little bit of a problem here, but we'll get to her in a minute. I just want to note that I have been reading her articles for several years, and she has some tremendous insights into the military-industrial complex and the ultimate reasons why we go to war. She wrote a really fascinating article.
I'm not hearing you.
Karen, do we have you here yet?
Oh, there you are.
Karen, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Great.
Yeah, but we're, I think we got you. I think we're losing audio for a second. But if you can hear us, okay, good. I'll go ahead and get started. What I'd really first like to know, and one of the questions I'm most interested in is, and having read one of your articles, I was especially interested in learning, in your opinion, what are the underlying reasons why so many people confuse justifiable resistance to evil with propaganda-driven government invasions whose real motivation is to expand political power or to satisfy the demands of the organizations that help put politicians who ordered invasions in power?
That's a long sentence.
Yes.
You know what it is governments have, I think, far better propaganda machines than do perhaps libertarians and the rest of us. We're easily convinced, the rah-rah, cheerleader kind of thing. We want to follow along. We want to be a part of something big. And really, when, fighting evil, it really, what all comes down to something very personal and usually not very spectacular, usually very mundane. What's the word that, the banality of evil? I mean, it's something, that's not really fun to deal with. We do it on a personal level. It's much better not to deal with that and to have governments march us in lines and have big parades and imagine that we're doing something far bigger, than just something as mundane as resistance to evil. That's kind of how I see it. But yeah, governments forever have been taking people to war, and they've been lying about it. I mean, when I first discovered our own American history, rediscovered it, I guess you could say, I was kind of shocked. But then if you look back through human history, it's just a pattern that keeps repeating and repeating. I mean, the kings, look at the Declaration of Independence, King George, what did he do? Well, he made war. I mean, one of the reasons he had to increase taxes was his, the French Indian Wars, which he had entered into very stupidly. It was a world war in the late 1700s, it cost him a lot of stupid money that he didn't need to spend, that he took from the backs of the people. It's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, and also, you've talked and expanded on the motivations for war, in addition, as a corporate strategy. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and talk about the additional historical evidence where war has been used as a corporate strategy to benefit specific corporations, perhaps?
Well, in many ways, the American colonies, even though we were freed, we were a constitutional republic, we had a small central government early on. But we did model our behavior after what we had learned, which of course was the British Empire, and there's the model of corporate warfare. We did much the same in our expansion west, and I'm not trying to be an apologist or a critic, and then this is the fact of the matter, and we like to think of ourselves as free, but once between the two shining seas had been conquered, we very quickly turned our sights globally. And of course, this is what Smedley Butler came to discover. that the wars that he had been fighting in the Philippines and in Mexico and other places really were corporate wars, an alignment of the state and the friends of the state and the favored businesses of the state. And, how about getting a free military to kind of change the trading field, make it one way or another. And we see it all the time. In fact, I have to say today, I was at a meeting talking to people. They're building a big regional jail in the 3-county area. Nobody wants it, and they're raising taxes on everyone to pay for it, and nobody knows why we're getting it, because there aren't enough prisoners to go around anyway. So there's all these theories about why we need new jails. But really, we need jails. We don't, but the state needs jails because there's a whole jail industry, which is related to the defense industry, and they need jails. And so they lobby politicians, and they get the business created by the state. It's you could call it fascism. I don't know. It's corporate capitalism. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's been around for a long time. Yeah. It's very unproductive. It ultimately fails. It is unsustainable, to use an Agenda 21 term. It's unsustainable, and it seems like only libertarians and usually constitutionalists, very rarely conservatives, only if they're paleo conservatives, and occasionally those on the far left. Occasionally, we'll criticize what's going on. Otherwise, we're all fat, dumb, and happy, and happy to get our paycheck and our if I work for Halliburton, I'm proud of Halliburton. That's a great American company,
Absolutely.
Anyway, it's a problem.
No, that's fascinating. And we talked earlier about how the government needs diseases because there's a big disease industry, and I mean that's right. just. It's just
they need
parallel.
people to eat lots of corn and lots of grain.
Yes.
You need 7 or 8, 12 servings of starches every day, and make sure they're American born, right out of Monsanto's.
And they also need us not to understand what the true definition of war is. And I know you've written about that war isn't simply intervention overseas. War is also a violation of our property rights. I mean, I believe it was Randolph Bourne that said war is the health of the state. But what we think of war is really a narrow definition. Could you expand on what war actually means and what the true meaning of rebellion is as well?
Well, I'm not sure I know all of the answers to that, but when I think of war, I think of something that the state has launched politically first. They've defined it politically. They've propagandized their population, and it doesn't matter if you elect your leaders or not. They all need to be propagandized for war. The kings did it. The dictators do it. Our elected officials do it. And then you mobilize for something that the government wants to do. And at least that's been my experience in my lifetime. We have not had, we've never fought on our own territory. We've always gone overseas, and it's been really, to me, a continuation of what, what Smedley Butler saw with some of the big companies, United Fruit, some of the rubber companies, they needed resources. What we need today seems to be oil and energy and somebody to back up our paper money with the, so we need them to use the dollar. I mean, don't forget that Saddam Hussein wasn't invaded until he went off the dollar and went to the euro. And certainly, I think one of the great achievements of any future Iran war will be the elimination of the Iranian bourse, which deals with euros and a hard currency. The Libyan guy, as soon as he starts talking about a gold coin that he would actually be able to support and trade with other countries interested in trading gold, he had to go. Seriously, do you think Gaddafi was somehow worse at the end of his life than he had been during the previous 40 years? But no, he threatened what this country values, not this country, I should say, but what our government values. And so the government makes war to pursue its own interests. Human beings rarely make war. We have feuds. We fight over things. We go to court and sue each other. Occasionally, you hear about the Hatfields and the McCoys. There are border disputes. I know there's water disputes between states. And usually we don't go to war over those things. We have conflict. We fight. things like that. But war is something the state does, and it is. Randolph Bourne is right. It is the health of the state. When you're at war, you can't criticize the state. When you're at war, you have to stand in a special area to have a free speech zone. You know, when you're at war, you got to do everything the way the state wants you to do, or else you're a domestic terrorist. I mean, you know, it works well. I think we just have to stand above it and beyond it, recognize it for what it is, and call them out on it.
Yeah, Karen, thank you so much. We have to wrap up, but real quick, if, feel free to share perhaps anywhere else in addition to LouRockwell.com where we can find your writing.
Well, actually, I keep everything that I do at Lou Rockwell, but I've been writing a little bit less for him because of the campaign. I am challenging a career politician, Republican, in his primary, in a Republican primary. I'm a Liberty candidate, one of Gigi's candidates. And so our website is KarenK4Congress.com. I have been writing really for the Virginia and our 6th district audience more than I would normally do, and a lot of that stuff's not really, I don't think, suitable for Lou Rockwell. I mean, it's still interesting to me, but I don't send it to him. So if you want local stuff and you want to see what I'm saying about the issues here, Karen K for Congress, and certainly I'd like people to check out my issue stances. They are very, very, very close to what Ron Paul would say, but I will say this. I just recently posted a defense and foreign policy perspective. I didn't think that was a big thing. I left it off, but I realized I should put it on there, and I did. It is exactly what Ron Paul would say, but I say it in a different way. And I had a couple of self-proclaimed neocons look at it, and they said, well, if Ron Paul said this, we would like it. So it's like, you know, whatever. It's just salesmanship.
Wow.
You know, I will say this, you guys, all your guests, where we are, this is the right path, and we are going to win. We're going to win in every way, and we're never going to give up. We don't need to. We're correct. We are right. We're just.
Absolutely.
So it's all good.
Thank you so much,
anyway,
Karen.
glad you could make time for me.
We appreciate your time. It was great having your insights, and I will definitely be checking out your positions.